We usually believe that thought can solve the very problem it has created. If the mind feels restless, we assume that more effort, more control, or more discipline will somehow bring peace. But when this struggle was brought to Ramana Maharshi, his answer was startlingly simple. Show me the mind, and then we shall know what to do. We fight thoughts, resist memories, attempt concentration, and often call this spiritual effort. Yet, the more one struggles, the more active the mind seems to become. What we try to silence, it often returns with greater force. And what we call control sometimes becomes another form of inner conflict. Is the mind really an object we can manage like a machine, or is something subtler being overlooked? When this question was brought to Ramana Maharshi, he did not immediately prescribe a method. He first turned attention toward the mind itself. What exactly is this mind that we are trying so hard to control? If we search directly for this mind, thoughts continue to arise. But the mind itself is not found as something separate, so it becomes difficult to locate. In Vedantic understanding, the mind is not a solid thing that exists by itself. It is more like a flow of thoughts held together because we keep identifying with them. A thought arises, and almost immediately we say, "This is my thought." A memory appears, and we step into it as part of who we are. A worry comes, and at once it begins to feel personal. In this way, something that is always changing starts to feel like a fixed inner reality. We begin to feel there is a solid mind sitting inside us, carrying all this. But when attention turns away from the thought itself and toward the one to whom the thought has appeared, something subtle begins to change. The usual habit is interrupted. Thought is no longer followed in the same automatic way. Slowly, the question changes. Not how do I stop this thought, but to whom has this thought arisen? And with that, attention is no longer moving outward with every thought. It begins to turn back toward the one who is aware of it. Every thought quietly refers back to a sense of me. And before a thought becomes clear, that feeling of I is already present. Ramana's teaching asks us not to follow every thought wherever it leads, but to notice who is aware of that thought, not by forcing the mind to become silent, not by arguing with the thought, not by resisting what comes, but by gently noticing where the thought first begins. As though attention pauses just before the thought fully forms, and in that pause, something deeper than thought begins to be felt. Perhaps silence does not come when the mind tries to control itself, because each attempt to stop thought often creates more effort, more movement, more struggle. And even while trying to become quiet, the mind may still remain active in subtle ways. Ramana's suggestion was gentler. Instead of fighting each thought, notice to whom the thought appears, not to find an answer in words, but to see what remains when attention turns inward. Perhaps silence begins when the one trying to control thought is quietly noticed, And in that pause, even for a moment, what remains is not effort, but presence. If this reflection resonated with you, you may subscribe to this channel to explore more timeless wisdom here, not as stories of the past, but as mirrors for our own lives. Om Tat Sat.